The first time Ambassador Zethkar saw a human crying over something that wasn't even their own species, he thought it was a malfunction. His crystalline carapace shifted nervously as he watched Dr. Sarah Chen kneel beside the tiny Velcari cub, her eyes leaking that strange saline solution humans produce during emotional distress. "The neural damage is extensive," Dr. Chen whispered, her voice breaking as she ran gentle fingers through the cub's silver fur. "But not irreversible. We can help them." Zethkar's compound eyes clicked in confusion. The Velcari had been humanity's enemies just 3 cycles ago. Their empire had blockaded human trade routes, seized their colonies, and dismissed them as an inferior species barely worthy of acknowledgement. Yet here stood this human, weeping over their children. The plague had swept through the Velcari homeworld with merciless efficiency. It targeted the young exclusively, leaving the adults helpless as they watched their cubs fall into catatonic states, their developing minds slowly shutting down. The Galactic Council had offered thoughts and prayers, standard protocol when dealing with species-specific biological weapons that might spread. The quarantine had been swift and absolute. Every species had their reasons for staying away. The Threks claimed their immune systems couldn't handle the pathogen. The Zephyrians insisted their atmospheric requirements were incompatible with the Velcari homeworld. The crystalline hegemony, Zethkar's own people, had calculated that the risk-to-benefit ratio was unacceptable. Only the humans had asked a different question, not whether they should help, but how quickly they could get there. "Sir," Captain Martinez's voice crackled through the comm system of the medical ship Compassion. "We're receiving another transmission from the Galactic Health Authority. They're strongly advising us to maintain quarantine distance." Dr. Chen didn't look up from the small form on the examination table. "Log their concern, Captain. We'll be planetside in 6 hours." Zethkar had insisted on accompanying the human medical mission, partly from diplomatic curiosity and partly because his people's biological immunity made him useful. He hadn't expected to witness what he now understood to be uniquely human: the willingness to risk everything for strangers who had once been enemies. The Compassion was humanity's newest hospital ship, but they had retrofitted it in mere days for this mission. Human doctors, nurses, and volunteers had lined up by the thousands to join the relief effort. Not because they expected reward or recognition. The Galactic Council was already preparing sanctions against humanity for breaking quarantine, but because, as Dr. Chen had put it, children are dying, and we can help. On the planet's surface, the devastation was overwhelming. Velcari adults moved like ghosts through their crystal cities, their usual proud bearing broken by grief. Cubs lay in makeshift hospitals, their large eyes vacant and unresponsive. The planet's renowned medical centers had exhausted their resources and knowledge, but the humans had brought something the galaxy had never seen before: a willingness to try the impossible. Dr. Chen led a team of neurosurgeons who worked 18-hour shifts, mapping the alien neural pathways damaged by the plague. When traditional medicine failed, they improvised. When their equipment couldn't interface with Velcari biology, they built new tools. When the cubs' parents wept in languages they couldn't speak, they held them anyway. "The human approach defies logic," Zethkar recorded in his diplomatic log. "They should have studied the problem from a distance, formed committees, requested funding. Instead, they acted on what they call instinct. They see suffering, and they respond. It is unprecedented." The breakthrough came when Dr. Chen noticed something others had missed. The cubs weren't catatonic. They were lost. The plague had damaged the neural pathways that connected their consciousness to their bodies, leaving their minds trapped and unable to communicate. "It's like they're in a maze," she explained to the Velcari medical team, "and they can't find the way out. But if we can build them a bridge..." The procedure was experimental, dangerous, and had never been attempted on non-human neural architecture. The Velcari parents had to make an impossible choice: watch their children fade away, or trust these aliens who had once been their enemies. They chose trust. The first cub to respond was named Sylvan, a small female with fur like starlight. When her eyes focused and she whispered her first word in 3 months, "Mama," the entire medical bay fell silent. Then Dr. Chen burst into tears again, and this time, even some of the Velcari joined her. Word spread across the galaxy faster than light. Humanity had done what the greatest medical minds of a dozen species had deemed impossible. They had saved the Velcari children, not through superior technology or ancient wisdom, but through something the galaxy had never properly understood: compassion backed by stubborn determination. The political ramifications were immediate and far-reaching. The Velcari Empire, once humanity's bitter enemy, became their staunchest ally. Other species began to reassess their opinions of these strange bipeds who cried over other people's children and performed miracles driven by nothing more than the belief that every life had value. But Zethkar understood that the real change went deeper than politics. As he watched human medical teams training Velcari doctors in the new techniques, as he saw former enemies working side by side to heal more cubs, he realized that humanity had introduced something revolutionary to galactic civilization: the radical idea that being different didn't mean being expendable. Ambassador, Dr. Chen approached him as the last cub was declared stable. Her face was exhausted but radiant. "I wanted to thank you for documenting this. Future generations need to know what happened here." Zethkar's carapace shifted in what humans had learned to recognize as his species' equivalent of a smile. "Doctor, I believe they will remember this as the day the galaxy learned what it truly means to be human, and perhaps what it means to be humane." The cubs were no longer orphaned by indifference, and in saving them, humanity had saved something else: the galaxy's capacity for hope.